Good evening, viewers. Thank you for tuning in to The Couch. My name is Pratt. Now, you are still watching Pan African TV, obviously, and thank you for doing that. Now, today on our show, we have a very distinguished guest. Now, I feel I'm not up to the task, of doing a proper introduction. I say that a lot, but this time, I'm really not up to that time. So I'm going to let him introduce himself to you. But I will just say this, that he happens to be the country director for UNAIDS. Now, that's major. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Emma.
Welcome to the
It's
show.
a pleasure to be here.
You see, I was struggling introducing you.
Yes, and I'm wondering why.
Yes, because having this opportunity to sit and talk with you, obviously I had to do a little, research and find out exactly who it is that I'm going to talk to. And the information that I had, first of all, it was not what I expected, You are so sweet and so nice. And yet, the information, this is somebody who has, you've been through your own, socio-political stuff. There's been some prison in there. So you're very multifaceted, can I say that, a person. And I would want you to tell me and the viewers about you.
It's very interesting. Yeah, you are right that story about me is actually the story of our region. I come from the Horn of Africa. I was born in Ethiopia, but I'm an Eritrean by citizenship. And the Horn of Africa is probably one of the ongoing and non-stopping hotspots in this African continent. And it's common to find such checkered stories of individuals coming from this area. That area has always been prone to war, to conflict. It has also mainly been prone to intervention by external powers who always come with a misguided policy, with a misguided expectation and imposition of their views. So therefore, it's a very, very conflict-prone area, and like I said, my story is also part of that picture.
I first of all, let's understand what the story is. Then from there, we can try and appreciate, who you are because of the story. So let's just talk us through the story.
Okay. Like I said, I was born in Ethiopia. At that time, Eritrea and Ethiopia, when I was born, were being brought together as one country. Basically, after Eritrea was federated under the crown of the Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, it lost its process towards becoming an independent state. It lost its right to self-determination. And all this happened in 1952. This is about, 7-8 years before Ghana became independent. So in terms of decolonization, from the European decolonization, probably Eritrea was the first country to be decolonized in that sense, but then just to be put under the federal arrangement with Ethiopia. And that was done against the will of the Eritrean people. There was a referendum that was carried out by the UN mission that went to Eritrea. There was a constitution and a flag that they had given. There was a government that was elected, the first elected government through the decolonization process. We had a president, a parliament, and so on. But soon after the federal arrangement, the establishment of the Organization of African Unity was in sight. And that prompted the emperor to now think of a different arrangement other than the federal arrangement. Eritrea is located along the Red Sea coast, the southern Red Sea coast of the African continent. It controls the Bab el-Mandab Strait. Very strategic, very well placed. Whereas the Ethiopian kingdom to the south of Eritrea was a landlocked kingdom. And when the Italians invaded Eritrea during the Second World War, the emperor fled and went on exile to England. And he stayed for the 5 years during the Second World War in Bath, in UK, where he was, able to see all these big ships coming in and out of Bristol and those ports there, and understood very well the value of having access to the sea. So when he came back to Ethiopia with the support of the British, who were fighting against the Italians at that time, because the Italians were on the Axis group and Allied forces were led by the Brits, then it became a very strategic interest for him to have access to the sea. So as long as he had that access, he really didn't care much about the other democratic issues, the choices of the people of Eritrea, their right to self-determination, their will to be themselves and own their own country, which was a clear colony of Italy. And also prior to the Italian occupation, also had its own kingdom. It's called the Bahar Nagash, which means the kingdom of the sea. In the Bible also, the Eritrean Sea is mentioned a lot, and the Eritrean state. The word Eritrea comes from the Greek word erythros, which means red. So we call it Red Sea today in English, but in those days it was Hebrew and Greek that was used very much, and that's why you had that Eritrean Sea. So it's a very long civilization. It's got its own written language, it's got its own laws, and history is documented. But anyway, for the emperor, the strategic issue was that access. And once that access was achieved, and when they developed the charter for the new African organization, the last charter article that was entered into the charter was an article that talked about recognizing each other's border at the time of that signing of that charter to establish the organization. So before that happened, about a year before that, then he annexed Eritrea after 10 years of federal arrangement, abolished the government, abolished the parliament, threw everybody out, and a lot of the leaders fled the country. And then that started that new relationship between the two countries, where those Eritreans who supported somehow to be linked to Ethiopia because they were tired of being colonized by Europeans, so they always felt a black brother, a black country is better than a European country. So they moved in that direction. So there was a big political party that supported this unity. And people like my father were also in that group. So that gave the emperor that opportunity of getting these highly educated Eritreans, advanced in many cases, to help him establish the modern state of Ethiopia as we know it today. And this is where now that Eritrea, Ethiopia becoming as one state for the rest of Africa, as most of you know. You don't know the history of Eritrea because you simply think, oh, those two are the same countries. Yes, we look alike. We have populations and communities, cultural communities that have the same kind of religion, same kind of culture, same kind of food on the border. But Eritrea has distinct tribes, nationalities, 9 of them, very distinct. Out of these 9, I think it's only the 2 of them that somehow are related across the border ethnically with the groups in Ethiopia, but the rest are not related to Ethiopia. After the abolition of the federal arrangement, then Eritreans went to war in 1961. So it took 30 years of independence war to get our independence in 1991. In the meantime, in Ethiopia, a lot also was happening. There was a coup d'etat that took place, and the emperor was overthrown. That was the government that my father worked for, and my father was in the army. He had risen to the rank of lieutenant general. He was the chief of staff of the armed forces during the emperor's time. And during that coup d'etat, 60 ministers and generals were assassinated by Mengistu Haile Mariam and officers that carried out the coup d'etat. And with that, we lost my father. This was on November 23rd of 1973. And that's where the Red Terror campaign began, a very Soviet-like campaign in Ethiopia, where quite a number of people who had either higher level education, higher level income, but by class, were really targeted. A lot of people were killed. Over that period of the Mengistu regime in Ethiopia, it's estimated about 1 million people perished, and several millions also fled the country. At that time, I was in my mid-teens. It was a very difficult time. But I happened to finish high school early because I was being double promoted. Stupid thing to do, by the way. I despise an education system that accelerates you beyond your age, because you always become the youngest in class and the most bullied, so therefore you end up becoming the toughest, I suppose, but you don't have fun. So it was like that. But at that time, our family was also targeted directly by that change, by that coup d'etat, along with the emperor's family. All the families of those 60 officials that were killed were also imprisoned or banished or thrown out of the country. So my mother was in prison, as you know. A brother of mine was also in prison. I myself was also in prison for 2 years. But this kept on and on and on, and as the days went by, quite a number of people of that caliber and class and people of that background literally vanished from the country. But then later it started to become a revolutionary, Marxist, ideological, lead-driven push of many young people. So the exodus from Ethiopia began around that time. My family left Ethiopia and they all went to the States. We are 7 siblings in my family. All of them went except one who was still in prison by the time we all left Addis. And then after he left prison, he stayed on. He was working for Ethiopian Airlines. All his life he worked for Ethiopian Airlines. But I went to Eritrea while the rest of my family left. Like I said, I was young and made to be tough at that time. So my choice was no. When something like this hits you, you don't bow down and walk away. So I chose to fight, and so I went to Eritrea and I joined my colleagues with the Eritrean People's Liberation Front. It was one of the foremost liberation organizations on the continent. Very well organized, very well disciplined. An organization that had an ideology of participation by all, where we had women in the army, 50% women in all aspects of work we did during the struggle, both inside and also abroad. Over half of the Eritrean population was pushed out of Eritrea. There was a scorched earth approach to push people out of their villages, burn villages down, so that as many Eritreans as possible left the country. So a lot of talented people, a lot of educated people, a lot of young people left the country. So it was depopulated by that much. And so I know when I come here and talk about it, it sounds unique, but when you go there, this is everybody's history. You will not find a family that have not lost somebody to the war in the family, or that had not lost somebody to exile in the family, or that had not lost somebody to imprisonment. It is one after the other. So that continued until 1991, when we now militarily pushed out the Ethiopian forces, and even went beyond Eritrea into Ethiopia in support of the movement in Ethiopia, which is a government today, to help them liberate Addis and Ethiopia, and also some part of Rwanda as well, with Paul Kagame and his team. So that ending gave us a very new beginning, a new beginning where now we have to adjust with the smooth world, where wars are done over tables, where wars are done over lobbying, where interests are constantly changing. So it's a complete new order now.
It's a new order.
Yes.
That's something that I found very interesting. You know, that's something that I've heard you say before. You know, you talk about how you come to Ghana and you appreciate the system, you know, and this is something that I think we take for granted without even realize. I don't think we are very conscious, you know, of it. You know, I think that some other African countries whose history perhaps are not like that of your country tend to take that almost basic and yet very crucial, you know, thing of structures for granted. It's interesting that when Obama came here, it's the very thing he spoke about. And I just want you to say something about that.
Yes, it is very true. It's an envy to anyone who comes from my kind of background, and also an envy to many other African countries. The institutions in Ghana, like you said, lots of complaint we hear, yes.
I complain too.
Yes, I've heard you. But I think it's the human capital, the quality of people you have in this country who can understand and go beyond that system and see that it's not delivering enough for them. But what I see is not how much the system has become efficient, sustainable, and delivering. But to me, I see when things come to a critical point, we have a fallback. Yes, we have a fallback. It works. I know the legal system is said to be very corrupt, very, difficult, long processes and everything. But when you went to an election and the opposition at that time did not accept the results, where did they go to? And that shows you that there is a system in place. In other places, maybe if the party that won sees the opposition wants to go to court, they would really give them a hard time, put them in jail, pull them left to right, whatever. But here, but the dignity, the fact that people have dignity, the fact that people can say what they want to say and be able to do something about it using the system is what speaks for itself a lot. And again, also on the other hand, as much as we complain about many economic, social, and other problems in Ghana, you have to look at what are the major markers about Ghana that define the people, that define the direction people want to. I know this sounds a bit sentimental. I do understand the realities, but there are certain things that happen that define people. For example, in 2012, I came from Kenya to Ghana, and when I was in Kenya, the 2008, 2007, 2008 election was a very bloody one. There was a post-election violence that took lives of very many people, and hundreds and thousands of people were displaced. There was a lot of mistrust that came as a result of that, and probably changed and redefined Kenya forever as a result. So I saw that. And I was part of the mediation team. I was part of the process before the Kofi Annan team came to take over. I have seen it, how democracy can shake a society. But then I came here in 2012. For the Ghanaian standard, the 2012 election was a very heated one. Yeah. And many people were telling me when I came diplomats included, oh, there are some serious hotspots in Ghana, we have to watch out the selection, we have to also declare some level of alertness so that we are able to move out or whatever. And I just kept on saying, but what are those indicators? What are you seeing? What is happening? Oh, you have these hotspots in this place, this place, this place. And they're, mainly with this party, mainly with that party and whatever. And then so I said, so what happens in those places? Oh, no, there's a possibility that some people will go and they will fight. I said, how will they fight? Well, they will just hit each other. I said, like man to man. Said, oh.
Like blow to blow.
Yes. So, I realized that what was being seen as a very violent or whatever here was not by any measure a comparison to anything else. So I said, okay, well, let's not rush towards, going any other direction in terms of how to look at it. But let's see if these things have the potential to turn the country into a violent country at that point in time, then we need to be able to look at more serious indicators, which never came. And the election day came. And again, another thing that really hit me. There were about 100 and something polling stations where the verification machines had failed. And people were lined up there the whole day, waiting for either other machines to come or something.
Yeah.
And they didn't
people
get to vote.
People were lined up from dawn.
Yes, they didn't get to vote. And I remember looking at the eyes of Mr. Farajan at that point, whether this man is going to panic or something is going to happen, because most of us that were observing were really at a point of panic. But what he did was very simple. He went and he said, okay, these polling stations, we will fix the problem, come back tomorrow and vote.
Yeah, I remember that.
And what did Ghanaians do?
We waited.
They went home,
we waited.
had their dinner, had their good rest,
we waited,
and came back the next day to vote. And no incidents.
Yeah.
That is a defining thing, because in other places, that would have been a call for war.
Seriously, that's a positive note on which to go for a break. That's a great note on which to go for a break. So viewers, this will be a point at which you grab a bottle of water and drink. We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Luciano le melko no fiano ye melko. What are you looking for? Melcom got it all. Great discounts, don't go. Yeah, mafia so. Best bargains on our days. Everything here is a bargain. High quality, must be a priority. So tell your mom, tell Kopi, tell your actually everybody.
It's a beautiful day. I'm gonna make most of it. It's a beautiful day, a day to share with you. You make my world go round. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really got me saying, NASCO brings home happiness, brings home happiness.
Experience the wide range of top quality and affordable electronics, phones, tablets, home and office appliances from NASCO. NASCO, bring home happiness.
Bill.
Welcome back from the break, viewers. I just realized I didn't even mention my WhatsApp number. Okay, so I need you to contribute to this conversation. I need you to text or WhatsApp to 026-084-6539. I'll take that again. It's 026-084-6539. You know, join this conversation. You know, I am learning a lot about Eritrea. I'm not sure how many people know anything about, you know, the country and its history, you know. And we also getting educated about the most, for me, fundamental issue, you know, structures and how very easy it is for you to take it for granted. When in essence, it is, you know, so important. We were talking about the election before we went on break.
Yeah.
We speak about Pan-Africanism, great concepts, right? And yet, before we came on air, I was just telling you, I was shamefully admitting that, you know, beyond Ghana, I haven't been to any other African country. And yet, I can tell you everywhere else that I've been, you know. I don't think that sometimes we necessarily walk the talk as Africans. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, first of all, let me give you my view about this us being Africans. I've always struggled with that concept. We seem to somehow get onto a one wagon to consistently define and redefine ourselves before we have even come to terms with what and who we are at our levels. When the Pan-African movement started, the real history behind that was, we are black people, we have a land, we must have a nation of our own. That is the bottom line. Then came in some very intelligent people like Dr. Nkrumah, who put substance into what Pan-Africanism should be. And in as much as we understand Pan-Africanism until today, we are all political Pan-Africanists. Because at that point in time, for Dr. Nkrumah to give substance, the best pen he had was to politicize the movement. So it becomes a common interest for all of us Africans. Because for the first time, we found a definition about ourselves. For the first time, we saw ourselves as viably, available to have our own identity, to have our own state, to have our own destiny, political destiny. I think he took it a big leap forward. But then nobody picked up the dribble after that. It didn't transform into a movement that keeps regenerating and recreating itself as each generation comes into the scene and as new developments take place on the continent. So we have that missed opportunity. Yes, we did create the political unity, but I don't think that was really the dream of Dr. Nkrumah. I think his was not each nation existing in its
For
own,
himself.
artificial border and then having its own little flag and then becoming a unity of nations. I think he went beyond that. He saw the nation is something bigger that should have all of us together. But unfortunately for that political premise, we had these artificial nations as a basis for that. So they're a misfit as they are anyway. They are the boundaries are wrongly drawn. A lot of things have gone wrong. So we haven't been able to make that change. But
I'd ask this question, and I like what you say. I really like what you say, because the present-day Ghanaian, present-day African, if I'm to generalize, if you ask them about Pan-Africanism, I think what you hear is, what you eat, what you wear, what you look like, things like that, which I think are perhaps not the essence. Yes, these little issues, of course, make up the big issues, but I would have thought, or I would have hoped, that Pan-Africanism would be much bigger than that, you know, way broader than that. For instance, when we started this TV station and called it Pan-African TV, you know, oh my goodness, the number of people who walked into my office and said to me, well, we are watching to see how you can sustain it. And I would always ask the question, sustain what? You know, like, when you think Pan-Africanism, what is your expectation? So it's brilliant what you're saying, you know, about us, first of all, knowing exactly what it is and making sure that it can adapt to now, today, you know, what Pan-Africanism is today, or what it should mean to me and you today. So perhaps what I'm asking you is for you, what is it today? Or what should it be?
Yeah. Your questions, your issues are what the issues should be, and not necessarily that other big picture you're talking about that nobody sees except a few of us. If I am from Eritrea, and you as a Ghanaian have no clue what we eat in Eritrea, and if I walk into Ghana from Eritrea and I had no clue what Ghanaians eat, that's where now the biggest failure begins. That's what I mean. We don't have enough information about each other. We don't have enough information about our histories. We don't have enough information to draw that basic line, that lowest line for our integration as an identity, as a culture, as people, probably sharing commonality of history, but at least, and today, commonality of interest. What is your interest as a woman, as an African woman, as an educated woman, as somebody who has occupied a space in the development process of your country? What is your thing? I need to be able to relate to that. So I think that's where we need to start to think. I look at interest probably as a potential driving force for the new definition of Pan-Africanism. If in that one generation of our fathers, there was that political will and political level of consciousness and understanding for them to say, let's forge a unity, let's find a common identity, let's move, because we are stronger when we're together. The way we are, you know, we're divided, it's not going to work for us. That is the generational consciousness they had at that point in time, which worked, which defined what was at that time. For us now, and now for your generation more importantly, it's quite important to understand what is your interest. And sitting here in Accra, Ama, what will be the interest of your colleague like you who's probably doing the same thing, asking the same questions in Uganda, in Eritrea, in South Africa, in Botswana? You don't necessarily have to have a physical visit to these places for you to have that sense of commonality.
Connection.
But you need to use, like what you're doing, whatever means are available. If you see, I read some report just recently that the level of achievement of African students in the European, especially UK and Canada and US universities is a level of achievement that was never attained by anybody else in the past. Now this tells you that brain-wise, our young people are no less than anybody else. But have we spoken to their interest yet? And I think our movement as a Pan-African has run out of steam because it has not recreated itself. It has not reoriented itself. New leaders have not emerged at a more powerful, more driven by cause. That kind of energetic leadership has not come out. This continent lost Kwame Nkrumah. This continent lost Patrice Lumumba. This continent lost these people. We never recreated these people. Nobody came up.
Now all we have is Mugabe, isn't it?
Yes, and he's,
with a lot of question marks by his name, thanks to the West and all of us.
So it is those kind of things that show you that we still have not found a central issue that now brings us together. Of course, we talk about economic growth. We talk about more and more young people becoming millionaires, getting involved, and so on. But I don't see any Pan-Africanism in it, but I see an expanded market, because the concept, the educational concept that we have in our brains right now is it's a global economy, it's an open economy. It doesn't matter which boundary, you just go and do business. But is that good enough? Is that, or maybe that should be good enough? Maybe that should be the politics of our Pan-Africanism. Maybe that should be, to push people like you to say, okay, stretch your arms, left and right to 3, 4, 5 other countries. Try to find like-minded people there and get some good communication business going on. Maybe that's the thing. We need to find what that central issue is for everybody.
The interest.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to throw the question back to you. I'm
Yeah.
going to put you on the spot and ask you, what do you think is the way forward? And I think you're in a unique position to discuss this, being that you happen to be the country representative for UNAIDS. What do you think is the way to go?
Well, I have a 25-year-old daughter. And I always try to understand, I always try to be in her mind and try to understand what she sees. Sometimes when she gets frustrated, I try to understand why she gets frustrated. Because I remember maybe when I was her age, the issues that used to frustrate me were completely different kinds of issues.
Different.
What I think is we need to create more opportunities for people to discuss. In as much as we have created opportunities on our airwaves for lots of music, for lots of drama, even though we have not turned that into a big capital, into a big market ourselves, our airwaves are taken away by these, what do you call it, Nova whatever from Latin America.
Yeah, telenovelas.
The telenovelas, but that platform is not made available for people like you to be able to talk to people like my daughter. For people who are probably about to make a difference wherever they are in their countries, and we have to be able to create that. So this is what I think. I think people are not talking enough. People are not trying to find a common agenda. There's too much individual agenda being driven. People are more into material issues. And so therefore they have left this challenge and vision that they need to have in order to be able to create that bigger picture, what in the end may be the Pan-African of the future in place. That's what I think. You're not talking enough.
Absolutely. Or perhaps we are just talking down at people and not listening. Is that also a possibility? Present-day Pan-Africanists, and we have some of them around, a few of them. Is it possible that all we are doing is just, talking down other people? You should be doing that. You should be thinking this. And like you're saying, just not listening.
Yeah, you see, the way Western education has manifested itself in people like us coming from this continent is, I think we have ended up being highly polished orators with very little capacity to move agendas, whereas with very little capacity to start revolutions of change. But we talk. We are very good. If you see, on average, this is now not only here but everywhere, when you look at the educated elite that has not taken science, is all talk.
I agree with you.
It's all talk. I suppose this may have had happened elsewhere, I don't know, but from what I see, in our time, when we were young students, we are not happy over an issue, we are not happy over a policy, we are not happy over the way things are being run, we would get on the street and rock the city. We would do all kinds of demos. We would go out to the countryside to talk to people. But that is not there. We thought with the advent of technology, talking has become very easy. But we are full of emojis. That's where that's up. Yeah.
And screaming on Facebook.
Absolutely. So
and Twitter.
It's just not getting us anywhere. So I really think that the culture, the educational culture that we have adopted since the birth of Pan-Africanism has left us, and especially those who are within the leadership of the Pan-African movement, just big talking machines. No vision, no recreation, no change. Well, when you see among the Pan-Africanists, there are also the Nkrumahists. That's also now another group, which have stuck more or less to the original doctrine of Dr. Nkrumah, which is probably the core. That's probably what we understood to be Pan-Africanism in the past. But that is also something that now needs to question itself and see, how do we place it? How do we attain generational transformation? How do we attain leadership creation among the younger generation? I think that it needs to be from a cause of highlighting and plight and whatever. It has to turn itself into a cause of reorganizing and organizing the young people. One of the former executive secretaries of the movement, a Nigerian guy, Tajuddin, used to say, don't agonize, but organize. I think that's what we need to do, and we're not doing that enough.
Enough of organizing. Yeah. Enough of all the comments and the criticism.
Yeah. The much talk that we do has to somehow translate
manifest into some action. Totally, I agree with you. Let me read a few of my messages there. This one says, Sis Amma, I always learn a lot from your programs. Nice show. Good evening from Paddy. Hi, Paddy. Of course, it's from Paddy. Thank you, Paddy, as always. First message to come in. Okay, this one says, Irama, I just love your man, how he speaks, his cuteness and his composure. Guess what? I can't even mention his name. His name is Nana Kofi from Sunyane. You want to help him mention your name? Mention your name.
my name is Girmay Haile. I know that Girmay is always difficult for people here to pronounce correctly. So I say my name is Haile. Haile seems to be easy for many Ghanaians because they're associated with Haile Selassie. But in my case, since the Ghanaians have taken Selassie, I'm left with Haile. So I am Haile.
Okay, this one says, good evening, Amma. I just want to let you know that I admire you so much. Your composure and professionalism is admirable. Keep it up. I am watching your show with Sir Girmay Haile. Very interesting. Well, thank you. But you did not tell us your name. You know, it would be nice to, you know, say thank you to you by name. So next time, please do tell us what your name is. This one says, Joshua Anambi. Okay, let's just leave it there. From Garu Timpani. I truly find your program educative and inspiring. Like Sir Girmay is saying, as Ghanaians, we take the peace we are enjoying for granted. We must guide our loins to appreciate and protect the structures that provide us such peace. Well, thank you, Joshua, for sending that in. Let's talk about UNAIDS. Talk to me about that. What's your mandate? What do you do for us in Africa?
Okay. Well, UNAIDS is the global leader for the HIV and AIDS response. The HIV and AIDS response is a response that is in place in most countries around the world. But as you know, the epicenter of the epidemic is in Africa, especially in eastern and southern part of Africa. And now West Africa is also catching up in terms of the size of epidemics. But basically, our role is to provide leadership, to provide advocacy, to create partnerships, to look at strategic information, data, to promote medical technology development, accountability frameworks, and coordination. This is what we do. At the country level, it is a cross-section of all these things that we do. So we advocate with political leaders, we advocate with community leaders, we advocate with religious leaders, and then we advocate with change makers like yourselves who have the platform, and also other celebrities who are socially connected and always constantly talking to the fans and the communities. So we work with these people. So my job is not necessarily to bring the medicine and the needle. My job is to make sure that when the medicines and the needles come, they get to the right person. And my other job is to go around and make sure that we find those people that need the medicine, and then we are also talking to those other ones that don't need the medicine and the needle, but are protecting themselves. So it's a chain work. So I am in the thick of it. My primary counterpart in the country, is a body that does the same thing I do with the UN agencies. I coordinate 16 UN agencies that are responding on HIV and AIDS, giving support to the country. The national body is the body called the Ghana AIDS Commission. Ghana AIDS Commission is a supra sector agency chaired by the president. And brings together all the key players in the country and provides coordination, provides monitoring, and provides resource mobilization, and also advocacy work in this. In Ghana, we use the First Lady as the premier ambassador for HIV advocacy, and also an ambassador for elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV. And also an empowering figure for young women and adolescents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we use the First Ladies usually for that. And so far we've been having fantastic support from the First Ladies, yeah. And on the political front, my mission when I came to Ghana was to turn Ghana into a major political capital for the global response of HIV, and not necessarily just limited to the national response. So as a result, we have had presidents of Ghana successively, especially since I came, the two presidents playing critical role at the global level in terms of giving their voice to the HIV response, and also becoming a voice of the voiceless, but also importantly of our continent as well. As we speak now, one of our great achievement in that effort is to have Ghana become the chair of the UNAIDS governing board. So 2017, Ghana is the chair. So by chairing that board, that means Ghana is actually leading the global response, which I think is a great achievement for us, as a country, and also as a team here.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, positive notes go on a break on. I don't know why you keep doing this to me. You always let us go on very positive notes. That's great stuff. Well, viewers, we are taking another break at this point. When we come back, Sir Girmay Haile would educate us, on some of the projects that, were undertaken during his tenure. He will talk to us about life in Ghana generally, the food and things like that, the clothes and everything, music, we'll keep it soft. And then we would also wish him well, because just in case you didn't know, he's just about to leave us. So stay tuned. Good stuff coming up when we come back from the break.
Bibiara wa melkom Luciano le melkom Nofiano ye melkom. What are you looking for? Melkom got it all. Great discounts, don't go. Yamafia so. Best bargains on our days. Everything here is a bargain. High quality, boost be a priority. So tell your mom, tell Kopi, tell your virtually everybody. We are welcome.
It's a beautiful day. I'm gonna make most of it. It's a beautiful day. A day to share with you. You make my world go round. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really got me saying, nice girl. Brings home happiness. Brings home happiness.
Experience the wide range of top quality and affordable electronics, phones, tablets, home and office appliances from NASCO. NASCO, bring home happiness.
Bill.
You're under stress.
Just about to go. Welcome back from the break, viewers. Welcome back. Sorry, I'm enjoying myself more than you viewers. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Let's quickly dive in. Just before we get to the good stuff, and the good stuff will be the very soft, issues. I just want to know from you, because you are leaving, of course, and this is me asking you to self-assess, assess yourself. Do you think that, because I'm sure beyond the official expectation, you have some personal expectations too, you have things that you wanted to do with Ghana, being the country director. Do you think that you've done that and beyond?
Well, yes or no. First of all, whatever it is that we were able to do during the time that I've been in Ghana, I find it still very difficult to say, really, this is what I did. Because when you come into a country like me, as a diplomat with very limited focused objective, and you land onto a country, and if the country is not receptive, people are not willing to listen, people are not willing to give you the space, you get nowhere. Mm-mm. You don't do a single thing. Mm-mm. Because my kind of job is dependent on what the country wants to do. Mm. So mine is, if the country wants to achieve objective A, mm-hmm. then the country is only looking at B and C to channel through to achieve objective A. Mm. Then my role is to see, just wait a minute. Yes, you have B and C, but you also have Y, G, H, that can also come in here. This is where I come in. And this also now I need to be allowed to do. I need to be helped to do. I need to be supported, trusted to do. So I see it that way. And I'm telling you, Amma, since I came to Ghana 5 years ago until today, I've enjoyed the goodwill of people to get on with the things that we wanted to do, to get on with what needs to be done. Mm. It has been amazing partnership. Mm. Yes, we have cultural issues, but then when you have, see, when you see the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel, you start to worry more about getting there, and you don't care how many times you trip, you don't care how many times you fall, because you are seeing the light, and so you just keep on going. Heavily bruised by the time you get there, right? But then when you have the will of people to move with you towards that light at the end of the tunnel, then you start to make sure that the road leading up to that one is also paved very well. And I think that's where success is measured. What had happened in this 5 years. We got a very important strategic act passed by Parliament, the new act of UNAIDS Commission 2015. That is a very fundamental one. And that is, I'm telling you, the best act we have on the continent. I know my other colleagues will kill me if they hear me saying that. But that act really went zeroed down to the real issues that we see as the most difficult obstacles we have in the successful national HIV response we have in Ghana. And this is dealing with issues of stigma and discrimination. Stigma and discrimination, as you know, is not something that's written. It is in the mind. It's a very complex, sophisticated thing that sits in the mind, that forms itself in the mind. It's not about maybe HIV, but community may be used to discriminating against people with disability, discriminating against older women, discriminating against even women altogether. If that ability to discriminate to the various population groups is somehow a normal norm within a psyche of a community, then you add just one more issue of HIV, one more other, than the same applies. So when you're fighting discrimination, it's very difficult to fight discrimination against HIV. It's very difficult to fight stigma against HIV, because they're all interconnected, and there are also many other fights that need to take place before that change happens in society. So it is a very big task. The fact that the national law has recognized that challenge and that complexity of this issue, and the fact that within the realms of law, that anybody violating this, especially authorities violating this, could be held accountable, is a major achievement on its own. So I really congratulate the country on that one. It's a big thing. The other one is, like I said, how do you turn Accra into a global political capital for HIV? How do you get its leaders, be it the president, the first lady, political party leaders, community leaders, get to sit on that big chair at the global level, not only bringing pride and recognition to their own country, but also them also taking that one step, extra step, to understand the responsibility that they have for the others. Because remember, our continent is the epicenter for HIV. We may have a small epidemic in Ghana, but that doesn't mean that Ghana can sleep while other countries are burning down. It just can't happen. So that, maybe Pan-Africanism, I don't know. But that sense of responsibility is something that needs to be recognized and understood by the leaders for them to put their best foot forward. So I think we have achieved that. My line constantly when I was talking to the leaders is, look, I am not coming here to ask you to play this role simply because you're a president, or simply because you are, the mufti, or simply because, no. I am coming to ask you to play this role simply because you are from Ghana. Africa loves Ghana. This is the only one country on the continent that nobody has issues with, but more affiliation with. Because remember, as I said earlier, for the rest of Africa, the leadership, the country that helped us define our Africanness was Ghana. So that goodwill, that love for Ghana continuously exists until today. Especially when it comes to roles of leadership, everybody's happy to have a Ghanaian speak. And for us in Africa, we have seen Ghanaians building Africa. All the civil service structures in Africa were built by Ghanaians. All the big technical issues and support that came as advice came from Ghanaians. Even if you take a walk around the world, if you see any African achieving big things, it will probably be a Ghanaian. And we even had a Ghanaian for for the UN Secretary General as well.
Yeah.
So Ghanaians are high achievers, and they're accepted. So when you are a Ghanaian, I say, okay, Amma, there is going to be this meeting of journalists or law experts or gender people or whatever. Can you please go? They would love to have a Ghanaian. So that is also something that you bring to the awareness of people, and that's what we have been doing. And this has been just going one after the other, and there has been a lot of good work that has been done. As a result, if you see now, the president is a convener of the SDG advisory group. This all started with HIV. And then immediately after the HIV, when the former president was a member of the Lancet UNAIDS Commission, which is a very prestigious commission to be, he was a commissioner. And then immediately after that, the Ebola issue came. So because of the role they played in that, we said Accra has to be the nerve center for this global response on Ebola around this region. So Accra became the center. So this is how, once the global recognition is in place, it is easy to play global games with Ghana in the lead. So that we have achieved. And as we speak, like I said earlier, now 2017, Ghana is the chair of the UNAIDS Global Board. So that, I mean, we can't ask why anymore. I mean, that we have hit the nail on that one.
Right on the head.
Yeah, and this happens because the ministers of health successively, previously Honorable Alex Segbefia and now Honorable Ajaman Manu, committed, highly committed to play that role, and it happened. So that is on the political front at the global level. On the advocacy level, we've had very effective role by First Ladies. The previous First Lady was the president of the Organization of African First Ladies. The current First Lady is the chair of West African First Ladies. What more can we ask? And even the current one has the potential of even, looking at a possibility of being a president as well. So it is, again, that acceptance of Ghana by others that makes it possible. So my job has always been make sure that when we put our foot forward, we put our best foot forward.
Best foot forward.
Yes. And
Best
that we
foot
take the
forward.
best people along, and that we assign the best people to do the job, and that we have consistency, and that don't have systemic failures. This is what I have been doing, keeping the dust from going up, somehow and somewhere. So this has been another successful area. And in terms of social advocacy, I don't know if you remember a campaign we started about 3.5 years ago called the Protect the Gold campaign.
Oh, yes.
That campaign just lit up Ghana. And because it lit up Ghana, it now became the example for many other countries to replicate what we have been able to do here. And that one, I also enjoyed it very much because first of all, it was not a traditional way of doing advocacy. It was a very different way of doing advocacy. My belief is you have an issue in the country, articulate that issue. Once you have articulated that issue, then communicate that issue. Once you have communicated that issue, then have people run with it. You don't need to own it. You don't need to be the one sitting in the middle of the table. You don't need to be the one to convene the meetings. Let people run with it. So with that, what we did was we looked at the facts in Ghana on HIV, and we said, what is fueling HIV in Ghana? Is it because people are not getting it right? What fuels it, and where does it go? So our programs showed that we had made very good progress with sex workers, because in the past, the infection rate and the prevalence rate among sex workers was quite high. And also among men who have sex with other men, also quite high. Said, let's zero down on these people. Despite all the stigma and all the discrimination and all the other issues about this, left, right, whatever people say, and you, media people of all the worst, stigmatizers on these key populations, we said that's where the primary drivers of the epidemic are, so let's go there. So of course that's what we do, and we went there. When you see now the infection rate among sex workers has gone up from as high as 70, whatever it was, down to 10-11% now.
Wow.
And the one among men who have sex with men also, the same thing has come down dramatically. So when you see our overall infection graph, you see that the infection rate in Ghana is coming down.
All the way down.
However, that is the general one. When you dissect that and then apply population groups, apply social indicators, and also locations into that, then a new picture emerges. You see this picture among the urban community. The infection rate is not coming down. It is stagnant, even with a little sign of going up.
In the urban communities.
In the urban communities. In the rural communities, you see this declining because there is less and less threat happening there. Why? The population of Ghana is moving into the urban centers. So majority of Ghanaians today live in the urban centers.
Sure.
So that means HIV has fast become an urban epidemic. So you focus on the urban, and then you find that urban dwellers, the middle class, the professional class like yourselves, the university students, the laborers, the workers. This group is the lowest condom user ever.
Wow.
Now, if you're not using condom, the first step towards self-protection is not in place. Now, forget all the other additional problems, stigma, everything comes, then it really becomes a very complicated issue. That's one. Second thing, in as much as Ghana is being touted to have a very fast economic growth, and that its classification now has gone up to becoming lower middle income economy, by overall nature, Ghanaians are not very much health-seeking people, especially the urbanites. Somehow, health issues are not the central character of many people. They wait until they get to a certain stage, and then that's when they're dragged into the health facilities.
Hospitals. I mean,
So
yeah.
So that
we don't go to
culture-
the hospital until we are sick.
Absolutely.
That's the truth.
So people have this tendency of saying, okay, no, this is not my problem. That part of the no, forget HIV, even other things, non-communicable diseases, diabetes, the hypertension, and all that. People don't know until they hit the roof with these things. So that now prevents a lot of people from knowing their HIV status. And then the third one, which probably is now beginning to play more and more of an important role, is a lifestyle issue that you see in the urban centers a lot. And this is having more than one sex contact or partner in some cases. From a UNAIDS point of view, of course, I'm nobody to come and tell people what to have contacts with who and what not. That is not the issue. But what worries me, and I'm not conservative enough to say this is, morally acceptable, not acceptable. There are people who see those things and who guide those things and protect those things. For me, what I see is now these things are happening. These people are not using condoms. And they also don't know their HIV status. And probably they don't even know the other person's status. But they have more than one contact. Isn't that suicide?
Yeah.
It is-
Absolutely.
yeah, it's incredible
Directly.
how educated people cannot have
Do the
that
math.
basic
calculation.
calculation to protect themselves.
Yeah.
The lifestyle is good, fine, they can do whatever, but just that basic thing. I mean, I cannot even begin to think how one can have contact with another person, 2, 3 people, and don't have that simple common sense of using a condom. So this is what the data is. So I said, okay, if this is what the fact is, let's take out these 3 issues: condom use, testing, and multiple partnership. Let's talk about these. We have identified the issues. let's communicate the issues. And we're saying, okay, because of these drivers, in the past, we went to the various population groups. Now the sex workers are responding. Yes, they're still out there selling sex, but they're still insisting on using condom. Whereas the woman and the man in the house who are having other friends are not using the condom. So we need to communicate this. We have articulated our issues. Where do we go to communicate? How do we communicate this? Yes, one was simply the traditional media to come and appear and talk about it like what I'm doing now. But beyond that, it has to also be a discussion point in the homes. It has to be a discussion point in the chat groups. It has to be a discussion point, informal, formal, in many places. So we sat down, we calculated who are the people in Ghana that will help us achieve in terms of reaching 1 million youth, especially in the urban centers. So when we did this pyramid analysis of the people who have the following, like you were in there and many others, we identified 130 names. In fact, not only 1 million, but that could give us even as many as 7 million people on social media. Ghanaians in and out of Ghana. We said, okay, these 130 people have a minimum of 20% active followers. That retweet, resend, discuss, what comment, whatever, like
Follow.
what you have your followers that write to you right now, those kinds of people. So we calculated the percentage of active, the average percentage of active. So we selected these 130 people and we said, let's now invite these 130 people to be our pledges and our ambassadors in this thing. And when we started to invite, I tell you the flow, we ended up getting quite a number of celebrities and social, political leaders, community leaders to come and partner with us, which has never been seen in the past. But also our target was to have 100,000 Ghanaian youth pledge by signing before our Black Star team went to Brazil for the World Cup, because we use that's the Protect the Goal comes from that. And we use the football concept to transmit a message of protection. We ended up getting over 1 million pledges when we had targeted only 100,000. So that was a very interesting campaign that went out to almost everybody. So for the most part today, people Protect the Goal is almost a household thing. Almost everybody knows about it.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I
And
saw
then
that.
the other area that we looked at was bringing in traditional leaders into this. And especially more than the chiefs, I work very closely with the Queen Mothers for obvious reasons. Queen Mothers are the kingmakers in this country, so why are you wasting your time talking to others? Let's go straight to the point.
Power brokers.
Yes, power brokers.
Direct to source.
Absolutely, and wonderful, wonderful people, amazing, and I learned a lot from them. Very dignified people who really believe in the culture and the tradition, and are also very much aware. And like I said earlier to you, the human capital in Ghana is what is the most attractive thing. People are educated, people can analyze, people can understand. If you are a fool by not being able to open your eyes and you stop at just the politeness of people, you're lost in Ghana. But if you go beyond the politeness of people and appreciate that human capital that the country has, then you see all these potentials of being able to achieve so many things.
So much.
And that was my approach, and it was quite
Absolutely, because and this is something that I say all the time. I say for any issue, and it's not just about HIV/AIDS. For any issue, gender, anything, equality, any issue. I think that our society is largely cultural. We are very cultural. So if you keep using the traditional stakeholders, if you keep the conversation up there, you miss it.
Yes.
You know, so
Yes.
you need to go down,
Yes.
enrich, like you rightly did, traditional leaders,
Yeah.
you know, pastors. Do you involve the pastors in any way?
Yes, pastors also.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
especially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, through the
Great
UNAIDS
way to,
Commission.
to do your
Yeah.
work. So, you know, I asked you to self-assess. Now I'm going to assess you
Okay.
and tell you that you've been amazing. I mean, I think every Ghanaian knows you. I doubt if there's any Ghanaian who doesn't know. Yeah, you know, and that's something, because you stand for something. You know, it's unfortunate that I didn't meet you till your last day. Bummer.
I know.
Very unfortunate. But, well, I wanted to ask one last question about HIV/AIDS, and that was about this new thing we have here now, where you have people saying that, I've been cured of the disease. You know, we've had that. You know, we've had real life ambassadors, you know, people who have been known perhaps even as faces of HIV/AIDS in the past, suddenly come out and say that I don't have it, you know, I never had it. And, you know, I was going to ask you about how that has perhaps derailed, if it has, you know, your work. But, you know, I'm being signaled left, right, and center that time is up.
Time is up.
So I don't know if you could make a very quick comment on that.
Yeah. Well, you see, for us, your status, be it negative or positive, is your personal issue. How you want to present it is your communication with your community. Has nothing to do with what we do and what we aspire to do. We have seen that drama, but interesting drama, but for us it didn't derail anything, because we don't take part in the conversation, because that's a personal issue. Our principle is, this is confidential. What you want to say about yourself is your right and your thing, and it doesn't do anything. But the bottom line is there being cure for HIV? No, please. No cure, to the point. But when I say that, I don't also want to sound like a doomsayer or anything. I want to say,
Naysayer.
yeah, naysayer. I want to say, we have reached a point in this HIV response where no life should be lost anymore to HIV. Our medical technology, our scientific understanding, our ability to respond in this response is at its best at this point in time. So we should not have anybody die of AIDS anymore. And that's our target. By 2020, we want to stop all deaths due to HIV. And we also are daring to say by 2020, we need to be able to stop by 90% new HIV infections. So these are achievable things. We see them happening. We see them right in front of our eyes. So people must believe that if we are able to reduce the HIV epidemic into a very minor chronic public health issue, we have achieved a lot. So I just want to make sure that people understand that we haven't found a cure for HIV yet, but we have found the treatment for HIV that can make you live like a normal person, and you know, until you die through a natural death.
Yeah, and here on the couch we had one such people here. Amazing woman, amazing. You know,
Yes.
we went to spend time with her at home. We met her husband. You know, lovely woman. And so we know that what you say is absolutely true. Let me read a few of my messages, and then I'll release you.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this one says, enjoying the talk at Uduaba. His name is Collins, and then he ends with very educative. Okay, this one says, Africa is gradually losing its leaders through lack of focus on what really matters and not challenging the status quo. It's time to reorganize our leaders for the change we long expected through Pan-Africanism. His name is Robert. Robert, thank you for that. Okay, this one says, Sir Girmay has glued me to my TV with his amazing voice. His name is Evans from Wa.
Hi, Ivan.
Okay, this one says, okay, enjoying, I think I've already read this one. You sent it in twice. Okay, this one says, good evening to you and your guests. Please, your program is very educative. Keep it up. His name is Alaji Virus from Sumu. Okay, I think I've done well. Well, you know, our time is up. You know, we need to go. But forgive me, guys. Just because you are leaving, you know, what would you take away with you from Ghana? what are you taking away with you about Ghana?
The pride,
The pride,
the politeness.
politeness.
Pride in a very positive way, by
Okay.
the way, yeah? And the politeness. And also that potential to be able to do anything and everything in Ghana. It's just an endless place. I'll miss it, and I am already connected. I cannot be separated from Ghana.
No.
Yes.
We won't let you.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
And you have to come back.
Thank you. I will.
You
I
have
will.
to come back.
Definitely.
Thank you
I
so
will.
much for this
Yeah.
opportunity. I'm
Thank
so
you very much.
grateful.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful. And we need to see before you go. I know the time is short, but we need to before you leave, of course.
I heard you have joined some of my friends to give me a big farewell party, so hope to see you.
Definitely, definitely. Sir, thank you, and thank you, viewers, for watching. There are so many questions that I still have, for Sir, but time is nobody's friend when you're having fun, unfortunately. So this has been our show. Keep the conversation going. What does Pan-Africanism, present-day Pan-Africanism mean for you? Sir says that we should look at it in terms of interest, our common interest as a people. Perhaps for him, that's where we can start the conversation. I think it's a brilliant idea to start the conversation from interest. So let's keep this conversation going, and let's wish him well and pay attention to all he does from here on going forward. Great evening with you as always. See you tomorrow. Bye.